Russia-Ukraine news. Is Ukraine's offensive counterproductive? Recently, Ukraine has been launching drone attacks deep within Russian territory, even at Moscow. Russians have been shaken by the attacks because they are not used to constantly thinking about the war that President Vladimir Putin started nearly 18 months ago. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has stated repeatedly that retaking the territory illegally annexed by Russia in 2014 and again in a much larger-scale invasion in 2022 is his only objective. "We are not fighting on their territory," Zelensky declared in late spring of 2022. "The conflict is now taking place on our soil. Low risk and high impact, attacks by unmanned aerial vehicles carrying explosives are a way for Russia to bring some of the suffering back home." Some, however, argue that they are largely irrelevant to Ukraine's future in light of the counteroffensive currently underway in the country's eastern regions. Check out Yahoo News for more on whether or not the Ukrainian counteroffensive is losing steam. Deep inside Russian attacks, drones can be used in a variety of ways. They can also be kamikaze weapons, which are launched at a distance and detonated remotely. Ukraine has made incursions deep into Russian territory recently, despite using drones to harass Russian forces close to the front lines and military installations inside Russia itself since the beginning of the war. Iran has sent Russia its own kamikaze drones. Both of Moscow's airports were hit by drones this week, and a Russian ship in the Black Sea was also attacked. Russia claims to have shot down 2 drones that were en route to Moscow and 11 more that were headed for Sevastopol in the Crimea. A drone crashed into a Moscow skyscraper earlier this month. Ukrainian officials have said that those who work in the Moskva city towers are a privileged class of government officials and businesspeople. The Russian government's inability to protect even their own social group was demonstrated before their very eyes. They have no access to air defenses, air raid warnings, or bomb shelters. In May, drones flew so close to the Kremlin they could be seen. "In some ways, it's more effective than what Ukraine can do in the counteroffensive," Michal Baranowski told The Hill recently. "Ukrainians are trying to demonstrate to the Russian elites that there is a cost to what Putin is doing," as one analyst put it. The Los Angeles Times reports that Ukraine may have launched a first-of-its-kind drone attack on Moscow. While some have defended the Ukrainian strategy, others have not. While the drone attacks may please Western backers, critics say they do nothing to help retake territory that Russia has already taken. Historian Edward Luttwak laments that the first serious war of the third millennium must be fought on the ground, despite widespread optimism about post-kinetic cyber and information warfare among Western and Russian generals. Like the Western Front of World War I, this is a war that must be fought by sheer, grinding, attrition. The United Nations, where the majority of countries have opposed Putin's aggression, issued a rare condemnation of Ukraine. A UN spokesman said earlier this week, "We are against any and all attacks on civilian facilities, and we want them to stop." Of course, Russia has attacked civilians far more frequently and fatally than Ukraine has. Find out more about why no one can stop the war in Ukraine on Yahoo News, courtesy of Unheard. A prolonged counterattack. Ukraine's future hangs in the balance as a counteroffensive planned for months tries to break through Russian defenses in the country's eastern regions. Because Russia spent months planning, digging, and installing anti-tank barriers, the counterassault has been sluggish. Zelensky has admitted that development has slowed and is not as extensive as hoped. As another winter of war looms, there is a risk that impatience on the part of Western allies and frustration on the part of Ukrainians will set in. "Our expectations were higher," a 36-year-old Kyiv resident whose partner is fighting in the front lines told The Washington Post. "If it is happening, it is taking a long time.